Hello, I am Maurie Beasley, and I'm so happy to be here to talk to you guys. This is a virtual conference, AI in Action Tools, Stories, and Innovations Shaping K-20 Education. I am here to talk to you about the practical applications of UNESCO AI competency frameworks for teachers and students. The main thing we're going to be talking about is equity and access to artificial intelligence. Let me introduce myself. My name is Maurie. I am a counselor and I'm currently a network system administrator at a K 12 district in rural Texas in the United States. I'm the co founder and CEO of AI Education Professionals. My husband and I are authors. We also are speakers. We travel around the United States talking about artificial intelligence to districts and universities. And we also consult about artificial intelligence integration into schools and into businesses. But who am I? Well, I am an AI advocate. I believe very much so that artificial intelligence can make a huge difference in our educational system and in the world around us. I'm very passionate about equity and rural education, having been raised in rural America. And I'm also an advocate for closing what we call the opportunity gap in education, what other people refer to as the digital divide. Why does AI matter? Well, I believe that AI has the potential to reshape education, but only if it is used equitably. So let's talk about that. Our learning objectives for this presentation, we are here to understand the UNESCO AI competency framework, or basically just what UNESCO does. Also, we're going to talk about some practical strategies for integrating AI into your schools and your classrooms. We're going to talk about the risk of blocking artificial intelligence in schools and also some steps for fostering inclusivity in AI adoption. The agenda that we're going to try to follow is we're going to start with the why, and then we're going to talk about challenges. Then we're going to talk about those practical ideas. And then, of course, we're going to wrap it up and have some takeaways. Now, first of all, let's talk about UNESCO. Hopefully, I am very hopeful that I am pronouncing it correctly. It is an acronym. It stands for the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. It has a main priority, which is the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and the improvement of the human condition. Now, if you go to their website, you're going to see these four things under their mission statement. They want to mobilize education to transform lives, which ensures quality, equitable, and inclusive education and promotes lifelong learning. They wrote to reconcile with the living, protect the environment through knowledge sharing, good behavior, and respect for biodiversity. And then the main thing we're going to focus on, of course, is they're fostering science and technology in the service of humanity. So they encourage open science and the free flow of ideas while developing ethical standards of AI and neurosciences. Promote inclusion and mutual understanding is the last thing under their mission statement. They want to build inclusive societies by promoting respect and tolerance, fight against racism, hate speech, and mis or disinformation. So, their framework is basically a guide that they have put out to help develop AI literacy among teachers and students. It focuses on understanding, using, and evaluating AI effectively and ethically. Now, let's focus on those things for a second. What does it mean to understand AI? For us, understanding AI means that you need to know how it works. You need to know what a generative pre-trained transformer is. You need to know how it takes information and it synthesizes new information based on what it has been trained on. Yes, you can get into the nitty-gritty of weights and balances and talk a lot more about bias and things like that, but Understanding that the bias that an AI may be giving you is specifically based on what it was trained on is one of those things that it makes you realize that AI is not infallible because it's trained by humans. How to use artificial intelligence, that's another big step in literacy. Applying AI tools when you need them for personalizing learning and education, or using it for classroom efficiency. Apply it where it's needed to save you time so that you can get back to doing what you love to do, which is making those human connections with your students. Evaluating AI, learning how to critically assess it, critically assess what its limitations are, critically assess the ethical implications of using it when maybe you should not be using it for something. That's what AI literacy is. Why should we care? Well, AI is not optional in the modern world. It's one of those things that, as I say, train has left the station, genie's out of the bag, cat's out of the hat, however you want to say it. It's not optional in the modern world. It's essential for career readiness. It's going to be in any career that you move into. It's on our phones now. It's in all of the major software packages. It's in everything that's coming out. So we have to prepare the future workers to use it in a correct, ethical way. Also, the rural and underserved students are at a huge risk of being excluded without access to these skills. That's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about those rural schools, those socioeconomic disadvantaged students that are not getting access to artificial intelligence. So, what are the challenges of AI adoption in a rural school? Well, according to the National Center for Education Statistics and a Pew Research Center, this is the aspects that they're seeing urban schools versus rural schools go up against each other when it comes to access to this technology. The internet access, the device availability, the teacher training, the curriculum, and the student exposure. Let's dig into this just a little bit deeper. There's infrastructure gaps that are happening between rural areas versus populated areas. We have limited access to high speed internet and devices in the rural areas, and our technology resources are unevenly distributed, which is widening that gap. Our technology resources, a lot of times, are also older or they're just not meant for education. One of the things that concerns me a lot is that in corporate America, they're getting the technology that is built for corporate America. It's not built for education. And then the corporate America technology companies are taking what they're building to sell into corporations and they're shoehorning it into a classroom. And then the teachers are using that technology. And guess what? It's not meant for them. So that leads to your teacher training. If a teacher is using a piece of technology that is not meant for education, then they're going to feel overwhelmed by that technology and they're going to start avoiding using it because it's not meant to do what they're trying to do with it. Also, there's a lack of professional development tailored to AI tools and pedagogy. Now, that professional development, that lack of development, is happening in rural America because of budgeting and because of distance. That's why things like what we're doing right now, having this webinar, even though it's pre recorded, being able to listen to someone talk about the issues that we're having in rural America is a very important thing. Not everyone can travel 5, 6, 7 hours into a larger city to do professional development. They'll have to pay for the hotel, they'll have to pay for the meals, they have to pay for the training, and sometimes that's just not in the budget. The other thing that happens is that we're having such a hard time getting substitute teachers or someone to come in and take a class for a teacher that's going to a training that a lot of times the teachers don't get to go simply because they cannot be covered while that training is going on. So, teacher training is a second reason why we're having some issues with adoption in rural schools. The other thing is a resistance to AI. Lack of training might lead to a misconception about artificial intelligence. A lot of the times when we train teachers, they are afraid that AI is going to replace them instead of assisting them with what they're doing. And I will tell you that if you are a teacher and you are standing in front of the room giving PowerPoint presentations and reading from those PowerPoint slides, artificial intelligence can replace you. If that's all you do, then yes, that is a possibility. But artificial intelligence will not replace the human element. It will not replace that teacher that knows the student, that knows the house situation, that knows about the classes that the student's taking, that knows what extracurricular activities the students are involved in, the teacher that stands in the hallway and greets each student as they walk in the door. Those types of relationships cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence. Let me tell you a real quick story. I was teaching fifth grade math actually, and I had a student that was a behavior problem. He really did not handle social interaction well. And I was very concerned about the student because I really wanted to teach him math. I really thought that that was my job. And this was before I became a counselor. I had a counselor that basically told me, Maurie, the teacher can, the student can learn math when the student gets out of your math class, but the student cannot learn how to interact and be social unless they do it right now. That it's easier to learn math than it is to learn how to have a human connection. So I spent the rest of my time making that human connection with that student. And guess what? After that human connection was made, the student started learning math. So, no, AI cannot replace teachers that make the human connection. Now, we do have concerns about ethical use, data privacy, and implementation cost. Let's talk about that for a second. We have been having data privacy issues ever since big corporations came out with search engine optimization and the indexed web. We have been giving away data to all of these corporations for a very long time. So, that ethical use and that data privacy concerns, we're finally starting to have the conversations about them that we should have had a long time ago. So, thank you, AI, for bringing this to the forefront and making us aware that we should be having those conversations. The other thing about resistance to AI in school districts is the implementation cost. It is very costly to get subscriptions for all of your students, all of your staff. So, we're going to address that just a little bit later in this presentation. The next thing I'd like to talk about are the consequences of blocking artificial intelligence. Students miss out on essential skills needed for the modern workforce if they're not being trained on how to utilize artificial intelligence. And rural schools are going to fall further behind, and it's going to deepen the opportunity divide. If you block artificial intelligence at your district or on your campus, the student that has the money is going to access those tools from home. I had a fifth grade student come up to me the other day with ChatGPT paid for version on their cell phone. Their parents pay for it. So that student is already at an advantage of everyone else in that class because he is able to access artificial intelligence. And don't think that kids aren't accessing it at that age because they have learned how to game the system. I kind of laugh about it. It's the same way that we used to game the system when we were young. You know, you knew when you were 18 years old, or at least I did, what year I was born in so that I could be 21 when I accidentally had forgotten my ID to go into a bar or something like that. So, what the kids have done is they know exactly what year they need to have been born in for them to be 18. And when they sign up for Chat AI or any of these other things that they're signing up for and it asks them for their date of birth, they lie. So again, maybe we need to talk a little bit about AI literacy and how to teach kids not to do stuff like that. But let's go on. Why is all this important? Why do I think that this is something we really need to be talking about, this equity and access to AI? Well, promoting social mobility. Education serves as a pathway out of poverty. If you teach them all the latest tools, all the latest and greatest, then they are going to grow up and they're going to have expanded opportunities, opportunities to get themselves out of situations they might currently find themselves in. The other thing is economic growth. A well educated workforce drives innovation and productivity, and it contributes to the nation's economic prosperity. So, we want our students to get out of school and be an economic contributor. That's very, very important. The other thing is social cohesion. If somebody gets out of an education that is inclusive and they understand and they respect diverse groups, we're going to have a reduction in social tension and we're going to be able to build cohesive communities. They're going to be good citizens. They're going to learn how to participate fully in civic matters. That's why equity and access is important. So, how do we make this work? How do we make AI work for everyone? Well, I can only tell you from my experience what we are doing. What we are doing is we are starting small. Now, you can use free, low cost AI tools like the free version of ChatGPT or free version of Perplexity or Claude or any of those major players, even Canva AI. You can do that for tasks such as lesson planning, which is not something that a lot of teachers actually use it for, but they definitely use it for lesson enhancement, taking that old lesson that they've done year after year after year and enhanced it to come up with a new way to teach it or a new game to introduce to kind of get those kids engaged because we are fighting to get those kids engaged in a K 12 classroom. I know that. We are fighting with social media, we're fighting with Netflix, we're fighting with YouTube, we're fighting with video games, all of those things that those kids are engaged with all the time after hours. Frankly, they come to school and they're bored. So we use AI a lot to help our teachers to come up with something that's a little more engaging to hook those kids and really make them have fun in the learning environment. The other thing that we're doing is we're introducing one AI tool at a time. We don't want to overwhelm our teachers. Now, what I have done and what my husband has done is we have a program called the AI Trailblazers. We have adopted 5 of our classrooms that we are very specifically putting artificial intelligence into those 5 classrooms. Now, the way we have done this is through a tool called Agnes. Agnes is an AI that is actually an AI toolbox. And like if I go to Chat AI, which is right here, my teachers have access to several different large language models, and they have been trained on which ones cost the most money. And we also have a free AI model on there. So it allows them to go to whichever one they need for whatever type of task they are doing. If they're generating an image, they're going to want to go to the paid for version. If they're sending an email to a parent, then the mini version might be what they can use. We also have a tools playground that our teachers have access to. This is where we put things in that are new that we haven't really had a chance to play with ourselves. And it gives our teachers the opportunity to go check it out and then give us feedback to let us know if they're interested in having it added to the toolbox. We have an internal chat bot that they can ask about schedules and human resources documentation, um, extension list, things like that. We also have Lucy, which is a translator for our teachers to use so that we can help with that language barrier. It translates from English into multiple different languages, and they can share that through a device with a student. So this is Agnes. This is how we are doing this at our school. I will say that we have not subscribed to any of the AI tools that are out there that have the monthly subscriptions. We are doing all this through an API key, and that API has allowed us to only spend about $33 in the last 3 months. So that's how we are doing it. Now, the next thing that we're doing is we're having teacher centered training. Instead of focusing on students and teachers at the same time, we are training the teachers first. We're doing workshops, we're providing hands on experiences to build confidence in using AI. I'm visiting the 5 classrooms that we have adopted as often as I can and helping them specifically. And I'm highlighting those real world classroom scenarios where the AI is actually saving them time or enhancing the learning environment for them, kind of to remind them about what artificial intelligence can do for them and what it is doing for them. And then, of course, they're sharing amongst themselves and coming up with some great ideas. The reason that we're doing this is because I would not ask a teacher that has no experience doing a chemistry lab to go in and do a chemistry lab. So I'm not going to ask a teacher to go train a student on how to use artificial intelligence until the teacher knows themselves. So that's another thing that we're doing. We're adapting to our local needs. We're also figuring out that we do have some challenges. Of course, as I said, we are in rural America. And even though we did get a large grant and build fiber into our town so that our school could have access to fiber, there's a lot of people in our community that do not have access. So we are doing hotspots to where if a student needs something to access the internet, or if a teacher needs to access the internet because they live in a rural area that they don't have internet access, they can take the hotspot home. And of course, if they have cell phone access at all, then they're able to get on and access what they need. So that is another thing that we're doing. We're adapting to those local needs. We are also trying to find partners. We're collaborating with organizations and offering up resources from other places for rural schools. I know that the National Science Foundation has a lot of grants, and we have gotten some government grants to help with technology upgrades and, of course, teacher training. So we're trying to find those partners that we can get with so that we can succeed. That is what we are doing at my district. What have we learned so far? So, we have learned that AI can be an equalizer. It can close gaps in education, especially for underserved and rural communities. It's about empowering teachers first and then students to reach their full potential when it comes to using artificial intelligence. We know that the risk of blocking AI will only widen the opportunity divide. It's going to let the haves have access and the have nots continue to lose out. So, equity must remain a priority, ensuring everyone has access to these tools. We want to give you some actionable steps. Start small, experiment with manageable solutions, stay focused, keep equity at the heart of AI implementation, and build support. Get those teachers that are really on board and then have them be your cheerleaders. A grassroots movement to get artificial intelligence into your school system is the best way to do it. Start at the bottom, work your way up. Call to action. So, if you would like to learn more about Agnes Beta, we are launching it in February at the TCEA conference in Austin, Texas. It is going to be available for other districts to use on a beta version. So it's just going to be a version that we are still working out some of the little, issues that might be occurring, and you can get in on a ground level at a lot lower price. Also, I want us to keep talking about equity. It's really easy to get distracted by all the big developments that are happening in artificial intelligence, but equity must stay at the center of every single effort. My name is Maurie Beasley, and I would love for you guys to follow me on LinkedIn. I do post often on LinkedIn. I also do Medium articles and things like that. I repost things. So please take just a second and go find me on LinkedIn. Give me a follow or connect with me. I'll be happy to discuss artificial intelligence with you. The next thing is that my husband and I, Jim is a computer scientist and an electrical engineer. He also has a electronics technician associate's degree. He is the engineer and I am the educator. We sit down usually on Sunday afternoons. We have a podcast called AI in Action, Exploring Tomorrow's Tech Today. This last podcast we just did, we talked about artificial intelligence in medicine. We don't just talk about AI in education, we talk about it in all different aspects. So please find us and listen in. Let us know if there's anything specific that you'd like for us to cover. Lastly, I have an email address. If you guys would like to reach out to my email address, that would be awesome. I will be happy to answer any questions. So we are at 26 minutes of this presentation. I know that we were supposed to keep it right around 30 minutes. So at this time, I would love to just say thank you very, very much for listening as I'm talking about equity and AI in rural America. I appreciate the time that you have taken to explore how we can use artificial intelligence to create equitable opportunities in education. I really want us to work together to ensure that every student everywhere has access to the future because AI is a big part of the future. There is no going back. So at this point, I think it's really important that we start teaching AI literacy as part of our digital literacy program. It needs to be included in all of our K 12 curriculum so that the students that are leaving the K 12 environment, when they go up into university or they decide to go out into the workforce, that they are prepared for what is to come. So, again, my name is Maurie Beasley. We thank you for tuning in to this virtual conference of AI in Action Tools, Stories, and Innovations Shaping K 20 Education. I hope that you guys have a great rest of the conference.